It started with a knock on the fence, 3 soft taps that somehow landed heavier than they should have. I was trimming the edge of my backyard lawn, sweating through my shirt in the afternoon sun, when he leaned over the top of the wood slats. Sunglasses pushed into his thick brown hair like he'd just stepped out of some sports drink commercial. "Yo," he said casually. "You ever swim?" That's how it always started with him, casual, harmless. Like a breeze that might blow over or knock down everything in its path. I looked up, heart kicking in my chest the way it always did when he talked to me like that. Like I was just another guy on the block, not the quiet one. Not the one who sometimes stared too long. "Sure," I said, wiping my brow with the back of my arm. "Why?" He shrugged, flashing a grin I'd seen turn girls to jelly. "I was about to hit the pool. Thought it'd be cool if you came." He said it like we did this all the time. Like we were old buddies, instead of neighbors who barely spoke. Outside of nods and borrowed hedge trimmers. But I wasn't going to say no. He didn't know how often I'd watched him out there shirtless. Headphones in, doing push-ups, or tossing a ball in the air, laughing on calls I couldn't hear. He didn't know the quiet wars I fought inside whenever I caught myself wanting more than friendship from someone like him. Someone who wasn't supposed to want anything from me. But that day, something in his voice felt different. Lighter, open. "Yeah," I said, trying not to sound too eager. "Why not?" The pool was behind his house, a surprisingly peaceful space, bordered by low shrubs and concrete pavers. A single chair sat near the deep end, and his towel was already draped across it like a flag claiming territory. I changed. In his guest bathroom, trying not to stare at the cologne bottles on his shelf or the white t-shirt he'd dropped near the sink. He wore those thin black swim shorts that hugged just enough to drive me insane. And when I came out, towel over my shoulder, he whistled low. "Didn't know you had a build like that." My ears burned, but I kept my expression neutral. "Didn't know you cared." He laughed, a real laugh, not just something polite, and dove into the water without warning. A splash exploded across the surface, and for a moment, all I could do was watch the bubbles rise where he disappeared. Then he surfaced. Water glistening off his chest, eyes squinting at me through the sun. "Well, you coming in, or just gonna stand there modeling that towel?" I dove in. The first few minutes were playful. He splashed me. I splashed back. We raced across the shallow end, shoulders bumping, both of us pretending it didn't matter how close we kept getting. But under the surface, something was shifting. Or maybe it had always been there, just waiting for the right moment to rise up. Every time he smiled at me, it stayed a second too long. Every time he swam past, his hand brushed my arm. He didn't pull away fast enough. We climbed out of the water eventually, breathless and laughing, and sat side by side on the edge of the pool, legs in the wave. In the water, torsos drying slowly under the sun. I remember the moment I looked over at him, noticed the way his chest moved with each breath, the curve of his neck, the drops running down his collarbone. I also remember the ache in my throat, the one that came whenever I wanted to say something but didn't. "You okay?" he asked quietly. And I said, "Yeah, just feels like summer finally started." He nudged my knee with his. Maybe it's about time it did. And in that moment, I felt it, the change. Something was different this time. Not just the water, not just the day. Him, me, us. And for once, I didn't want to swim away from it. Asterisk, asterisk, I. Met him the same week I moved in. Boxes still unopened, lawn still wild. He was out front, barefoot in gym shorts, tossing a basketball with the kind of lazy rhythm that made it look like he wasn't even trying. "Need a hand with that?" he'd said when he saw me struggling with a bookshelf and a doorframe that didn't agree with each other. I told him I had it, and then dropped the shelf on my foot. That was his cue. He was inside before I could argue, laughing and cursing under his breath as he helped me wedge it through. I remember his scent clean. Sweat and something piney, like his shampoo, was trying too hard. His arm brushed mine a few times that day, each one a little spark I pretended not to feel. We were different, him and me. He was loud where I was quiet, Kind of guy who threw barbecues, yelled at football games on the porch, and had friends who called him bro unironically. I was the kind who planted herbs in mismatched pots and wore socks with holes no one ever saw. But somehow, we clicked over the months. We found these strange little routines. Sunday beers on his porch, both of us complaining about work even though we didn't hate it. Me helping him fix the wiring in his garage because he kept shocking himself. Him forcing me to watch movies I claimed were dumb action flicks where he quoted every line like it was sacred scripture. We had our own rhythm, unspoken but easy. I started looking forward to the way he'd wave when he saw me. How he'd lean a little closer when I talked, like my words needed catching. Sometimes, I'd catch him looking just for a second, like he was trying to figure something out. Other times I'd look away too quickly, afraid of what my own face was saying. That afternoon at the pool shifted something between us. After that, we hung out more often. He'd shoot me a text, burgers or tacos tonight, or come over. I can't finish this beer by myself. One Friday night, we ended up watching a movie at his place. His living room was cozy in that bachelor pad way. Leather couch. Too many remotes, the smell of detergent and body spray. He tossed me a throw blanket, then flopped down next to me, our knees nearly touching. We barely watched the movie. Halfway through, we were quoting dumb lines, teasing each other about our taste. Kept nudging me with his elbow like we were kids on a school bus. When I stole one of his fries from the takeout bag, he mock growled, "You're lucky you're cute." I froze. He didn't notice. Or maybe he did. But he just kept talking like it didn't mean anything. I smiled, even though my chest hurt a little. Because it did mean something to me. The complication came 2 days later. He knocked on my door holding a duffel bag and a grin that looked like trouble. It's a random question. He said, "You ever been to Canyon Pines? Camping?" I blinked. Once, like forever ago. My buddy bailed. "I've got the site reserved and a cooler full of steaks. You in?" Should have been easy to say no. But I didn't. That weekend, we drove out in his pickup, windows down, music up. Him singing off-key to songs I didn't know. We stopped for gas and snacks and made a dumb game out of who could build the worst junk food dinner. He won. Somehow a combination of orange soda and beef jerky will haunt me forever. By the time we got to the site, the sun was dropping low behind the trees. He handed me a beer and started pitching the tent like he'd done it 100 times. I fumbled. Through helping, trying not to stare when his t-shirt rode up or when he leaned too close. And then came the twist. "You brought a sleeping bag, right?" he asked. I blinked at him. "I thought you packed both." He paused. "I brought mine. I thought you were bringing yours." We stared at each other in silence. Then he grinned. "Well, it's a double." My heart skipped. "Oh," I said. "Cool, no big deal. Unless you snore," he added, trying to keep it light. "I don't." I lied. That night, under the stars, we lay shoulder to shoulder in the bag, pretending it wasn't weird. His arm brushed mine, then his leg. Every accidental touch felt intentional, or maybe I just wanted it to be. The silence between us was full of things unsaid. At one point, he turned toward me and whispered, "It's weird. How easy it is with you." My breath caught. Yeah, he said, "Feels like I've known you longer." I didn't say anything. Just stared up at the sky, feeling the warmth of his body beside mine. His fingers were resting near. Mine, not touching, but close. So close. And for the first time, I thought, maybe he feels it too. The second night in Canyon Pines didn't go like the first. The sun dipped early behind thick pines. Clouds rolled in slow and stubborn over the hills. The temperature dropped harder than either of us expected. By the time we finished the last of the grilled steak and packed up the cooler, I could already see my breath. "Damn," he muttered, rubbing his hands together. Feels like fall showed up uninvited. One of his oversized and still warm from wherever it had been tucked. I pulled it on without thinking, then caught him watching me for a second too long. "What?" I asked, feigning a smile. He shrugged, but something about his voice was lower, softer. "Looks better on you?" I laughed. but I couldn't meet his eyes. I didn't want to read into it, and yet, how could I not? We crawled into the tent early. It wasn't raining, but the wind rattled the trees like they were whispering secrets. Too fast to catch? Inside the double sleeping bag, things felt different. The warmth that first night had been easy, excusable, but now we were both curled tighter, pressed closer. My shoulder against his chest, his arm resting across his side, but close enough to graze mine. I tried to keep my breathing even, but every inhale brought in his scent, wood smoke, sweat, and whatever shampoo he used that always lingered in the back of my throat like a memory I didn't know how to name. He was talking about something, a story from work, something funny. His boss said, but I wasn't really hearing him. I was listening to his voice more than his words, watching the way his mouth moved, the way he swallowed between sentences. The quiet in the tent was intimate, too intimate. The walls were closing in, not with danger, but with possibility and fear. I didn't want him this much. I didn't want to be the one who crossed that line first, not if it meant losing what we had. I think the firewood's wet, he said eventually. Didn't catch earlier. Might have been a dumb idea coming out here. I'm not complaining, I murmured. He shifted slightly, and I felt his thigh press against mine. You're not freezing? I've been colder? You sure? I can. He paused. I can move over a little if you want more space. I didn't move. It's fine. A beat then, he chuckled, low and almost embarrassed. It's kind of wild, huh? Us? Out here, sharing a sleeping bag. His voice carried something unspoken beneath the joke. Question maybe. Or a confession he wasn't ready to say. I looked at him. Really looked at him. His face only inches from mine, eyes reflecting the dim lantern glow from outside the tent. His lips were slightly parted, breath slow and warm. And for one wild second, I thought he might lean in, but he didn't. Instead, he glanced away, scratched the back of his neck. So, what's the deal with you? You never talk about dating girls? Guys? Anyone? I swallowed. My heart started to beat louder in my ears. I don't really date, I said carefully. Not much point. I hesitated. Then almost a whisper because it never really feels safe. He turned his head back to me. Safe how? I stared at the seam of the tent, fingers clenched beneath the sleeping bag. Like, if you say the wrong thing, look the wrong way, feel the wrong thing, everything changes. People pull away, even if they didn't mean to. He was quiet. Thought I'd said too much, but then I felt it. His hand not quite touching mine, but resting close. Almost like a bridge. Soft, silent offer. That sucks, he said after a while. It's feeling like you have to hide all the time. Habit, I murmured. Still sucks. We lay there in the silence. The cold didn't feel quite so sharp anymore. I shifted slightly, trying not to be obvious about it, but our legs tangled a little under the fabric. He didn't move away, didn't laugh, just stayed. I risked a glance at him. His eyes were already on me. What if? He started, then stopped. I waited. He licked his lips. What if it didn't have to be like that? The air felt heavier than before, but not in a bad way, in a real way. Like everything we'd been dancing around was finally standing in the same room with us. I tried to keep my voice steady. You don't have to say anything. He shook his head. I'm not trying to lead you on, man. He exhaled sharply. I don't know what this is. But when I'm around you, it's just easier to be me. I don't feel like I'm proving anything. My heart was doing that thing again, pounding so loud I wondered if he could hear it. You don't have to figure it all out right now, I whispered. I'm not expecting anything. He nodded. I know, that's the thing. Then, slowly, casually, like it didn't matter, he let his fingers brush mine. And this time, didn't pull away. The next morning, neither of us said much. But something had shifted. Not in a loud, dramatic way, but in the kind of way that made you feel things under your skin. A current you couldn't see, but felt every time you got too close to the water, when we packed up the tent. His hoodie was still on my shoulders. He didn't ask for it back. And on the ride home, We didn't play music. We didn't need to. The silence said everything. It didn't happen out in the woods, or at the pool, or even in the back of that pickup with the windows down and the world quiet between us. It happened on a Tuesday, just a plain, no resin, middle of the week evening, where the sky looked like a used napkin and everything in town felt half asleep. He texted me first. "You home?" I told him yeah. And 2 minutes later, he was on my doorstep holding a pizza box and a six-pack, like he was trying not to overthink it. He always brought something with him, like it gave him permission to come inside. I didn't ask why. I just stepped back and let him in. We ate on the floor because the coffee table was stacked with unopened mail. He flipped through the channels and landed on some movie we'd both seen a dozen times. The kind you don't have to watch to enjoy, but neither of us laughed like usual. We barely even spoke. He was quieter than normal, his usual confidence, the teasing, the sideways glances was replaced by this odd stillness, like something was pressing on him. He hadn't decided whether to let it out or let it crush him. I watched the way he peeled the label off his beer, slowly, over and over, like it had answers. "You okay?" I finally asked, my voice low. He looked at me, just looked long and hard, and something in my chest cracked open. He didn't smile, didn't joke. Just said, "Can I ask you something?" I nodded. He shifted, his knee brushing mine. "Why haven't you ever made a move?" The question didn't register at first. I blinked, confused. "What?" "You heard me," he said, softer this time. "What? You like me, right?" My mouth went dry. I couldn't find the words, let alone the truth inside them. He leaned back against the couch, beer forgotten between his fingers. "I've been trying to figure it out because I feel something when I'm around you. I don't know what it means, but it's real. And I thought maybe I'd know. I thought if I gave you space, you'd do something. Say something." I stared at the floor, every nerve in my body lighting up like a fuse. He continued, slower now. "You look at me like you're scared to want what you want. Like if you speak it out loud, it disappears." Yeah. He wasn't wrong. Think he wasn't wrong. I swallowed hard. My voice was thin when I found it, because I didn't think I was allowed to want you. He didn't speak, so I kept going, the words tumbling, half-wrecked and overdue. "You've got this whole world that makes sense. Girls, parties, confidence. You're the guy who's always in control. I didn't want to be the one who came along and broke the rules, or made you question them." He shook his head, almost laughing, but not out of humor. Out of disbelief. "You think I don't question things?" I looked at him then, really looked and saw it. The tension around his mouth, the tired confusion in his eyes. "I'm not as put together as you think," he said quietly. "Stayed up wondering why I feel what I feel around you, why I notice the way you bite your lip when you're nervous, why I remember dumb things you say that no one else even catches." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "You think I haven't thought about what would happen if I kissed you?" My breath caught. He exhaled slowly. "I don't know if I'm straight or something else. I've never had to define it. But I know I miss you when I'm not with you. I know being near you makes my day feel easier. And I know that right now it feels like something's breaking inside me because I don't know where I stand with you." There it was. Raw, unscripted, real. I sat beside him, still and silent, heart pounding. "I didn't make a move," I whispered, "because I didn't want to lose you." He turned toward me, his voice barely audible. "What if the only way to keep me is to stop pretending this isn't happening?" The room felt impossibly small, like it was holding its breath, waiting for someone to do something brave. I looked at him, not just the parts I'd stared at from behind fences or over campfires, but all of him. The curve of his lips when he wasn't smiling, the worry in his brow, hope buried beneath hesitation. "I'm scared," I admitted. "Me too," he said. Then so slowly it almost didn't feel real, he reached up and touched my face. His thumb brushed just under my cheekbone, tentative. Like I was something fragile he wasn't sure he deserved to hold. My eyes closed without meaning to, when his forehead leaned gently against mine. I felt every breath like it was a promise. He Didn't kiss me right away. We stayed like that, skin barely touching, hearts loud in our ears, and when his lips finally met mine, was hesitant, soft, full of question. I kissed him back with an answer. Later, we'd lay on the couch, half covered by the throw blanket, legs tangled. The movie still playing in the background, but forgotten. Neither of us said much. We didn't need to. His hand found mine again, his fingers lacing slowly like he was learning a new language, and I was teaching him with touch. I don't know where. "This goes," he said eventually. "Me neither." But I don't want it to stop here. I turned to look at him, feeling the weight of what we'd both said and hadn't said. "It won't," I said, and I meant it. The next morning felt like waking up inside someone else's life, familiar, but different in every quiet way that mattered. He was already up, standing in my kitchen shirtless, rummaging through the cabinet like he belonged there. The late light caught the slope of his back and the curve of his neck. And for a second, I just watched from the hallway, taking him in. Something about seeing him there, barefoot, sleepy-eyed, stealing my cereal made my chest ache in the best way. He turned around mid-chew, raising an eyebrow. "You just gonna stand there and stare, or are you gonna help me figure out if this milk is still alive?" I laughed, stepping forward. "You're in my house. You drink the questionable milk. That's the rule." He rolled his eyes and poured a cautious splash into the bowl. "If I die, you're giving the eulogy. And I want it dramatic." "Don't worry," I said, grabbing 2 spoons. "I'll cry loud enough to haunt your exes," we sat across. From each other at the kitchen island, the cereal crunching between spoonfuls and stolen glances, everything was softer now, easier. But also charged. There was no more pretending, no more hiding behind jokes or half-spoken sentences. And that made every little touch, his knee brushing mine, the way his foot rested against mine under the stool, feel like something new, something earned. "So," he said eventually, stirring the spoon in circles. "That wasn't just a one-time thing, right?" I shook my head. "Not for me." "Good." His smile was small, nervous, 'cause I don't think I could go back to pretending. Silence stretched for a beat. Then I added, "Even if we're figuring it out as we go, especially then." He leaned back, eyes scanning my face. "I don't want to freak you out, but last night, that was one of the realest moments I've ever had with anyone." I looked down, fingers tapping my mug. "Does it feel weird to you?" He considered that. "Weird? Maybe, but not wrong?" "Not even a little." I nodded. "Same." He smirked. "Although, fair warning, I snore and I steal blankets. And I talk during movies." I raised an eyebrow. "All fatal flaws. You're lucky you're cute." "Ah, so you think I'm cute?" he teased, leaning closer. "Yeah, I finally admit it." I nudged his foot under the table. "I think you're annoying, but in a cute way." I sighed dramatically, in a tolerable way. We both laughed, and it felt free, like we were unburdened by all the guessing. Every part of me felt lighter now, like something I'd carried for too long had finally been set down between us, and instead of walking away, he'd sat beside it. Later, we ended up on the couch again, half wrapped in a blanket, his arm resting. Behind me, we weren't in a rush to define anything. We didn't need to. He ran his fingers slowly through my hair, distractedly. "So what happens now?" I looked at him. "I don't know." "You tell me?" "I guess," he said slowly, "we just keep doing what we're doing. But maybe now I get to kiss you goodnight?" He's saying that like I'm going to stop you. I mean, he shrugged, grinning. "You could try, but I'm scrappy." I laughed, then let my hand drift to his knee. "I think we take it one step at a time." He nodded. "No pressure. No labels yet. It's no expectations." I agreed. "Just honesty and time." He looked at me then, something soft and fierce in his eyes. "And maybe." "What road trip?" I blinked. "What?" "There's this cabin my uncle has, like 4 hours away. I used to go there in summers. It's old and dusty and has terrible plumbing, but it's private, no one around. We could get away, just for a weekend." I tried to play it cool. but my heart flipped. Yeah. Yeah. You, me, a couple beers, maybe a broken heater. I smiled. Sounds perfect, besides, he added, nudging my thigh. I want to know what it's like waking up next to you in the middle of nowhere. I leaned into him, shoulder against his chest. Spoiler, I snore too. Liar. Okay, maybe I don't, but I do hog the covers. He tilted his head down, brushing his lips against my temple. I'll risk it. And in that moment, wrapped in each other's warmth and laughter, I realized something. This wasn't the end of anything, it was the beginning. Of questions, of moments, maybes and mornings, and things we'd still fumble through. But it was real, and that was more than I'd ever dared to want. It was the little things that changed first, not the grand gestures, not some dramatic overhaul of how we talked or touched, but the small, everyday shifts that said more than any label ever could. Like how he started knocking on my door with 2 coffees instead of 1. How his toothbrush quietly appeared in my bathroom drawer without a word. How he'd brush my knee with his under the table at breakfast, just because he could now. One night, maybe a week after that quiet Tuesday, we found ourselves back at the pool, the same one where it all started. The water was still, reflecting the pale yellow porch lights, and the air carried the hum of distant sprinklers and the occasional cricket. We didn't say much. He sat on the edge, bare feet dangling just above the surface, and I lay back on the warm concrete beside him, hands behind my head, watching the stars blink lazily into view. Funny, he said, how this used to feel normal, and now it feels different. I looked up at him, 'cause it means more. He nodded toes. Skimming the water, I used to wonder what made some people brave, like how they knew when to say something or risk something. And now I think it's not about knowing. It's about feeling something strong enough that silence starts to hurt more than speaking up. That landed harder than I expected. I sat up, knees pulled to my chest. You're braver than you think. He smirked. Took me long enough. He turned, his shoulder bumping mine. We stayed there like that, quiet, steady, not needing to fill the space with more than what was already between us. Then, without saying a word, he reached into his back pocket and pulled out something small, a folded piece of paper. He held it out to me. I unfolded it slowly. Inside was a crudely drawn map, childlike, sketched with a black ballpoint pen. It had a cabin, a crooked path, a lake that looked more like a circle, 2 tiny stick figures drawn near the porch. This is our weekend, he said. I took the time off, reserved the place. I figured we start small. I stared at the paper, something so simple, so silly, and felt the lump rise in my throat. He grinned. Also, I was going to make a playlist for the drive. But I only got 3 songs in before I gave up and decided you should handle it. I have terrible taste. You do, I said, trying not to laugh. But that's the most romantic bad drawing I've ever seen. He nudged me. You gonna hang it on your fridge? I'm gonna frame it. He smiled, eyes soft. You know, you don't have to know what this is right away. Where it leads, what it becomes. I looked at him, all of him, just the way he was. Real, imperfect, honest. I don't need to know, I said. I just want to go, with you. A breeze moved across the pool, rippling the surface. He reached for my hand, not hurried, not unsure, just right. His fingers slid between mine, warm and familiar. And that was it. That was the moment. Not some grand kiss under the stars, not a dramatic declaration of love, just 2 hands meeting in the quiet, choosing each other. When we left the pool that night, we walked home side by side, bumping shoulders, trading jokes about who'd pack the better snacks for the trip. He asked me to bring my hoodie, the one he let me borrow at the campsite. Asked him to stop stealing all the fries next time we ordered takeout. We didn't say I love you. We didn't need to. The words weren't ready yet. But the feeling was growing, steady, real. And as we stepped into the soft porch light, our hands still linked, I realized something. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. I wasn't watching the clock on something that felt too good to last. I was just here with him, ready, and this was only the beginning.